All right, welcome everyone to another big This Week in Crypto episode. I'm your host, Brian. I will be solo today. Maxim is traveling, but we've got a lot of content to cover here with crypto looking to be finishing the week on quite a rise, especially on the altcoin side. If we look at the weekly trends here for social volume, look at how many different altcoins are seeing major rises in discussion compared to a week ago. Um, this is one of the biggest social volume spikes we've seen throughout the past 6-ish months or so. Really, the only other comparable week I saw where we were seeing universally high social volume was the week of the, excuse me, week of the Trump election on November 5th, specifically when he was elected. But look at the prices here. We can see mostly a slight downtick in most altcoins still, despite the rises. I'll show the 24-hour trend in just a moment, but I wanted to highlight Solana here, up 21% over the past week. Ondo also having a big week. We don't talk about them much, but they had a 23% rise, which is quite significant. Jito staked Solana up 21%. And then the biggest riser over the past week, at least among the top 75 assets, is Radium up 38%, and finally Gate Token up 18%. These are the notables on the positive side. Now on the negative side, there's a few meme coins like Shiba Inu down 15.5%. Polkadot and Litecoin both down, even though Litecoin especially is making up ground today and rebounding pretty big. Pepe down 20%. BitTensor, one of the big gainers in 2024, also down about 20%. So kind of all over the place there. But if I toggle over to the 24-hour period, yeah, things suddenly look pretty nice. As many who have been in crypto for a long time, it's all about time frame and perspective, right? So we see ups and downs in the weekly returns, but suddenly going to the 24-hour, it's looking quite rosy. So these are the kinds of days that get traders hyped. The theme of this call is going to be analyzing FOMO, because we're already seeing signs that traders are starting to get a bit euphoric again, as is often the case on Fridays. Looking at studies, yes, Friday is one of the best performing days, if not the best performing day of the week historically. And we see, especially on this perspective, Ondo really just having a huge run, 12.5%, and Solana again up 8%. So these are kind of the altcoins seeing the biggest traction at the the end of the week here as we go into the weekend, where we'll surely see a bit of a slowdown in volume. Overall, if we look at the past week, it's almost dead even in terms of market cap gains and losses, up just 0.08% over the past 7 days, with volume much more significant. It's risen about 20% in this previous week compared to the week prior. So that's something quite significant. I also wanted to point out a feature that I've been increasingly enjoying on the screener page. If you go to this little button here with the 3 windows, and let's just say we type in one of my favorite metrics, which is whale transaction increases, and we drag it over to the top here, and we'll just get rid of volume and a few of these others so we can make it nice and clean. So you can actually see how much whale transactions have differentiated over the past week compared to the week prior. Bitcoin's whales are 35% more active. Ethereum 65% more active. Yes, you're going to see some zeros because we don't have data for specific non-ERC20 assets. There are a few that we do, like Litecoin, even Bitcoin Cash, stuff like that. But as we go down, yeah, the majority of them we have. Dogecoin 60%, USD coin seeing major increases dependent on the blockchain that we're looking at. Yeah, USD coin in particular doubled or more than doubled in most of the blockchains. Chainlink, another big one, especially on Polygon, nearly doubling in whale transactions. So this is kind of the key. Whales are really seeming to be active over the past week, and that has had a lot to do with the increased altcoin movement, especially. Um, and we can look at a few of the highlighted insights that we put out on our socials over the past week. I wanted to start by taking a look at this key stakeholder tier. Perhaps the most important tier out of any in crypto would be the amount of coins held and the overall addresses, which we're looking at here for Bitcoin wallets holding between 100 to 1,000 BTC. Oftentimes, prices come and go with the same direction that these holders are accumulating or dumping. It's more of a long-term indicator, so don't expect that, you know, as soon as we see a climb in this line, we're suddenly going to see a breakout. This is more of like a week-to-week or even month-to-month kind of thing. And what we look for are divergences, especially when, you know, we see something like this where they're really accumulating rapidly and the amount of 100 to 1K wallets are growing. We tend to see kind of a catch-up period at some point where prices will jump higher at a later date if these wallets have already been growing, or perhaps drop if this line has been dumping. And the great thing is there's a bit of alpha. You can see the wallets growing without prices reacting immediately. And then a few weeks down the road, or sometimes a few months, that's when you'll start to see prices really make up for it. So in short, a divergence is where, you know, we see this line, this yellowish greenish line moving up, and then prices not reacting right away. That would be a bullish divergence. If it's moving down and prices don't react right away, that's a bearish divergence. So where are we right now? Well, it's about even. The price increases that we've seen with Bitcoin up roughly 12, 13% over the past two-ish weeks leading up to the inauguration and now 4 days after the inauguration, they've kind of, the price has gone up as these wallets have risen. And we'll take a look now at how the actual amount of coins held look, because that's equally, if not slightly more important than just the amount of wallets in these that comprise the 100 to 1K tier here. So if I go to my keys template, which is public and you can check it out yourself, I'm going to get rid of this and hide these lines for a minute. So I can just take a look at the 10 to infinity line. This is expanding on the line we just looked at and looking at all tiers, all wallets that hold 10 or more Bitcoin. So we're including exchange wallets. We're including more that are not quite considered whales, but still are millionaires. Anyone that holds 10 Bitcoin or more, that's a million, about $1.05 million at minimum that they're holding in their wallet if we convert to USD. Since December 26th, the day after Christmas, roughly 4 weeks ago, we've seen this tier rise by about 5,644 Bitcoin. Not that significant, but certainly moving in the right direction. And you can look at the context here. It's actually off the axis because I've used a custom axis to make it more clear what the uptrends are. But you get the idea, especially from, you know, October 11th to about December 26th. That's when we really saw them growing rapidly, adding about a total of 131,000 Bitcoin during that 2.5 month stretch. And obviously prices reacted accordingly. From this stretch, they jumped 49%. At their peak, they actually jumped about 68%. Bitcoin's market cap, that is. And I put a nice infographic together that I think really breaks it down into 5 different tiers. Let me make sure I can find it. Can I find it? One moment, everybody. I want to make sure to show this because it's really, really cool. Not it. I know it's on our X feed. Apologies for the delay. Here we go. So what we're looking at here are the 5 different periods from our eyes that Bitcoin's elite 10 plus wallets have behaved since mid-July, roughly 6 months ago. You can see the slower period from July 20th to October 11th, where only about 164 Bitcoin per day was accumulated. So even though these are different periods of time, some are long, some are short, we've normalized the data by looking at the per day accumulation or dumping during that time period. As you would imagine, the per day accumulation growing rapidly indicates we're more likely to see bullish price action. If it's quite flat or even going negative, which we haven't seen during any of these periods, that's when we're tending to see slower growth in price or even unpredictable, slight declining price action. So yes, this is what you don't want to see. If whales and sharks are kind of just sitting on their hands, not moving much, prices tend to be a little bit unpredictable. During that stretch, Bitcoin actually dropped 7.3% in price from October 11th to November 5th. Suddenly they picked up steam and they were accumulating 884 Bitcoin per day. That amounted to a 9.8% price increase during this time. Then they suddenly started accumulating rapidly. And this should have been the signal where you could have accumulated yourself with confidence, knowing that 10 plus BTC wallets are adding more than 2,000 Bitcoin per day. That is a massive amount. And what do you know? Price went up 35.8% during this time. And suddenly we see a slowdown period at the end of 2024, whether it's for tax reasons, uncertainty about the upcoming Trump inauguration at the time, maybe just a cool down from the euphoria over Trump getting elected at the time. And suddenly they're only accumulating 156 BTC per day, a drastic difference from the 2,060 per day from this segment here. So yeah, prices still did go up, but it was a little more marginal. And like I said, it's unpredictable during this time. Anything can happen. It was actually down toward the end of it up until the final days here. And then maybe the price jump right around the 25th, 26th triggered whales and sharks to become more confident, maybe Maybe it was their plan all along, but they suddenly picked up and added over 1,000 BTC per day again. And now, a few days after this graphic was posted, we're sitting back above 105K, looking pretty good. And if we go back to the current look at that graphic, yeah, the last few days have looked quite nice. I'm seeing, as I refresh, I'm seeing plenty of aggressive accumulation once again, leading up to the current day here, where they're now holding 16.34 million. If we go back to that day, yeah, they've added now about 10,015 total BTC in about 8 days. So yeah, they're maintaining that over 1,000 BTC accumulation per day. That I think is a great rule of thumb to indicate that you can hold or accumulate with confidence, knowing that the whales are too. So that's my little segment about key stakeholders. We have so many metrics we can look at, as always with Santiment. I always try to really figure out what would be the most effective use of this 45 to 60 minute weekly stream. And I wanted to look at some of these social trends here. Obviously, one of the big stories of the week was the meme coin craze. Very predictable that we'd see a lot of polarization surrounding any coins that had to do with the US election. And we had the predictable Trump coin that was going to be in the news, and people were going to try to pump it or try to dump it, depending on what those FOMOing retail traders were going to do themselves. It ended up being very up and down. A lot of people actually lost money on these coins, and we saw some major news outlets, um, you know, salivating over publishing stories about retail traders losing money in meme coins. It's The media loves to talk about those things because they think it encompasses, uh, degenerate trading in crypto. But it was actually up and down. There were plenty of people who actually did decent on these coins, with the exception of Baron Coin, where there was a very, very quick, like 2 to 3 minute pump, followed by a massive dump. And anyone who jumped in during that very short period of time got pretty burned. Baron Coin was not associated with the Trump family in any respects, and a lot of people kind of jumped in hoping that it was, or not really validating much about the coin, and they did get hurt pretty badly. But you can see just how much the social volume related to Trump coin, Melania coin, and Baron coin jumped in the 2 to 3 days prior to the inauguration, really peaking roughly 12 hours, 16 hours before the official inauguration. And then you can see the social volume has dipped significantly. Telegram, Reddit. Interesting to see that Twitter/X kind of jumped in early. I think there were some bots that were really shilling these coins. And then Reddit and Telegram came on 6 to 8 hours later and peaked at their own respective times. 4chan was right there with X, almost mirroring what the social volume was. And even Bitcoin Talk kind of jumped in a little later. They were the latest of the 6 social platforms that we follow to really get peak meme coin discussion related to these 3 in particular. Farcaster, a little more on the early side. But yeah, you can find a lot of information about the trends of a pump and dump, or the trends related to any topic, and which social platforms are really initiating those conversations. I find it fascinating. Um, it's, I think a lot of people long term still feel that, Trump coin can have some upside because the social crowd is going to associate that with kind of a some semblance of like a Trump stock. If he's having a good public perception, Trump coin has historically gone up over the past year. If he doesn't, then it tends to struggle. If I just isolate Trump really quick, we can look at the amount of mentions of the token. They're going to be pretty sparse, but look at just how much it tends to pump in a hurry and then dump rapidly. And over the past 24 hours, we have seen another little rise here. Let's open it up on the main chart really quick before I look at some meme coins. MAGA Trump is going to be the one we want to pay attention to. Look at the overwhelming transaction volume that we saw over the past few days. Let's zoom into just the past month, make it a little more clear. So yeah, huge transaction volume spikes. Over $150 million dollars went into Trump token in terms of transaction volume on the 18th, so 2 days before the inauguration. And it's going to reflect pretty similarly in any utility metric. The 17th and 18th are where people were really, jumping in hard and trying to figure out whether they could make some money off of this meme coin. Even whale transactions. Yeah, we had a couple transactions of over $1 million. There was also a specific wallet that is held. Give me one moment. I want to make sure to show this as well. So World Liberty Financial has a fund, obviously, that's been tracked fairly often. This is their contract address. You can see all of their transactions. They've actually been very active just in the last hour, all of a sudden. And it looks like it's a lot of Lido staked Ethereum. I can open up this contract on Santiment, which is really cool. If I go to our charts page, so this may or may not load. The quickest way that I have found that you can load up uh, historical wallet activity is actually going to the top transactions table, especially under Ethereum, because that's where we're going to see most of our relevant address activity. And we're going to give this just a moment to load. I'm going to take a sip of my drink. No data. Okay. Let's give this a hard refresh. Try again. This will happen from time to time. Something looks like it may be up with our top token transactions at the moment. Apologies for that. There it goes. Just took a little while. Okay, so I'm just going to open up any address here, and that's going to take me straight to the historical balance page, where I can now copy paste in the World Liberty Financial Wallet, and it's now tracking what's going on in this wallet. I'm going to add Ethereum. Okay. For some reason, this is not looking correct. There is definitely more than $4.9 million in this wallet, and it's much more spread out among like 45 different assets. Yeah, it's the wrong wallet. This is not the correct wallet. I checked on this a couple days ago, and it was showing 100 times more coins, and we're not seeing any signs that it suddenly dumped off. But hopefully, I'll talk to the devs and figure out what's going on here. I think we're having some bugs with our historical wallet address feature, which is a bummer. Oh, well, we will look at some other stuff in the meantime, because I did really want to check that out. If you do hear from, if you don't mind, Max, can you just ping them and let them know that our historical wallet addresses are feature is not functioning correctly right now? Thank you. Okay, so going over to Bitcoin, we see that, you know, utility is kind of on the decline right now. We, you know, can draw a line from December 4th up until today and see, you know, kind of a generally declining amount of transaction volume. The same is going to go for daily active addresses. Since the second week of December, we've seen a bit of a decline. You can actually look at the 7-day trend here. Kind of peaked up on December 9th at about 856,000 daily active addresses per day, now sitting at about 764K per day. Circulation wise, about 156K unique tokens moving per day. Now it's down to just 79.9K. So that's quite a drop. I am a bit concerned about how high Bitcoin can go on this rally without the necessary utility that usually comes hand in hand with it. When we were seeing the all-time highs back in November, December, obviously we were increasing most days. And now, we're getting a bit of a bearish divergence where price is going up, but uh, utilities having a bit of a tough time keeping up. And then on top of that, MVRV for Bitcoin is at about plus 6.8% for 30 days and plus 30.9% for 365-day wallets. And that's indicating we are slightly overheated. If you're looking to buy or add on to your position right now, understand you'd be doing so with a bit of increased risk with both the short and long-term average traders that you're competing against up money themselves. So ideally, we need to see them start to dip down to around 0% or ideally below into negative range. Now, Maxim wanted to make sure we talked about something related to the amount of holders and age consumed. I'm going to pull up a chart really quick. We're also going to do network realized profit loss, all on the same chart here. So what we're looking at here are our amount of total non-empty wallets on the network. And this actually looks pretty good. We just checked out at the beginning of the call the amount of coins held by wallets with at least 10 Bitcoin, as well as the total amount of wallets holding at least 10 Bitcoin. Both are looking pretty good. Well, the total amount of holders is mostly comprised of really small wallets, and they've actually been on the decline since the inauguration. It seemed as though a lot of retail traders kind of got euphoric right here, saw that big dip right after the all-time high, and haven't jumped back in since. What we have seen since that time are two huge age consumed spikes. Age consumed is calculated by looking at the total amount of coins being moved on a given day multiplied by the age of those coins. So we're going to see much larger spikes when the coins are old and we're stagnantly kind of sitting in wallets up to that point. And if they're suddenly moved, we see these big breakouts in age consumed, and these often signal a reversal. So considering they kind of happened as the price was declining, this one kind of happened as we started to rise, but it does look like these were accumulation spikes where older coins were moved from exchanges to wallets owned by actual humans, and that helped us see the bounce that we're seeing today. Network realized profit loss looks very similar with lots and lots of big healthy spikes in just the past 24 hours. So this, to me, looks like a very good sign for all three. Total amount of holders moving down. We want to see the crowd showing disbelief and lack of faith that Bitcoin can continue to climb. And we also want to see lots of dormant movement and realized profits happening, indicating that a lot of larger key stakeholders are staying active and helping to move the price up. On the sentiment side of things, yeah, it's pretty neutral at the moment, at least for Bitcoin. This is the positive sentiment. I keep them really dark so that we can really highlight the ratio of positive to negative sentiment, but you can see positive sentiment here, negative sentiment here, and then this is the ratio between them. As you would expect, because we know that prices move the opposite direction of the crowd's expectations. When you see really high spikes like this was the actual Trump getting elected spike, which actually foreshadowed a rise for once. But in most cases, we're going to see the opposite, where high spikes are indicating near tops. Here was a good time you could potentially profit take. Obviously, it went up a couple more days, but the bottom spikes here as well are very, very valuable. December 20th being a good time you could accumulate right around here or even right here. But right now it's kind of sitting in the middle. Traders aren't quite knowing what to do with Bitcoin other than sit on their hands. And obviously, many are looking at altcoins right now, as we saw with some of the sky high social volume spikes we're seeing. Two assets I wanted to highlight. Solana has been all over the place. We actually highlighted this huge dip in Solana sentiment happening right on Inauguration Day. We see that on 19th and 20th, we are uh, we saw a huge movement, right? So this contributed to why Solana was all over the place. They also had some low choppy transactions on the network that day. So users were expressing a lot of frustration. And we've seen this time and time again with Solana specifically. If their network becomes unreliable, the sentiment gets very negative. And from that negative sentiment, a lot of people, especially retail traders, jump out of Solana, and then the price proceeds to rebound rapidly. And those frustrated traders end up kicking themselves for getting out for emotional reasons. So prices have rebounded pretty nicely. We saw it was up double digits in the past 24 hours. The other one I wanted to look at is Litecoin. And Litecoin's a little bit different. It's actually seen a pretty big euphoric spike, which makes me a little more worried about them. Yes, they are rebounding today, but it might be a little more fool's gold compared to Solana because the euphoria right here was pretty evident. And I would suspect that Solana traders, I'm sorry, Litecoin traders are going to continue to see more ups and downs. Litecoin can, of course, get carried by the rest of the markets. Interestingly, Litecoin can often lead Bitcoin as the second oldest cryptocurrency in existence. It still has a lot of correlation between Bitcoin and Bitcoin to Litecoin, which is kind of unique about it. But I'm interested to see what happens specifically with Litecoin next. Right now, it looks like it got a little bit too much positivity on Inauguration Day, and I'd like to wait and see if we get another one of these low spikes in sentiment soon. Now, speaking of sentiment, lots of different keywords have popped up as notable trends on our top 10 list here for the most trending words, the keywords that are seeing the highest increase in social volume over the past 24 hours compared to their normal resting averages. The number one word is stockpile, and we can see that the keyword is trending due to Trump's executive order aimed at developing a national digital asset stockpile, particularly for Bitcoin and other digital assets. It's a strategic initiative for crypto. So it's mainly just a word that is getting a lot of traction right now due to Trump's pro-crypto stance and his continued public willingness to own lots of crypto, make crypto a very U.S.-centric commodity that is constantly being discussed positively. He obviously wants people to view crypto positively, and he's mentioning it pretty consistently in the news right now. You can see stockpile, digital, order, executive, all related to the same topic. These are the top four trending words in crypto right now. Down here, Senator Cynthia Lummis, the chair of the Senate Banking Subcommittee on Digital Assets. It's a position where she's advocating the passage of legislation to establish that strategic Bitcoin reserve. So it's related to the same topic. Asset, reserve, strategic, senator. So SAB might be the only exception. They're rescinding SAB 121, which restricts banks from custodying cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. I think that this is mostly good news. They're allowing banks to now have custody over crypto, or at least they're trying to get it passed. And this is significant. It allows banks to hold and manage crypto assets once again, and it should have a positive response from traders, as is pretty much everything on this top 10 keyword list. Going to trending coins now. Interesting that Order is the number one coin. I think this might be kind of cross-related to the executive order we're talking about. So this might actually be extra noise in crypto right now and the discussions that is accidentally leading the coin order to be number one. Vine at number two. Vine coin is associated with the now defunct Vine platform. Many of you may remember it from like that 2015 to 2017 era, kind of like the OG TikTok before TikTok took over. So Vine is seeing a pretty big pump. It kind of, yeah, I mean, it's gone through a few phases here. It went from 18 cents to 26 cents and then a smaller pump. Always beware of the lower highs. So when this rebound was not quite as high as the 26-cent price, that was a caution that we might be going down further. So you can always check out the bearish and the bullish summaries. I won't go through all of these. But below it, you can see Bitcoin, Trump, no surprises here. Senate, I did not even know that Senate coin was a thing. But yeah, this is all about Cynthia Loomis once again. Crypto project Senate generated a significant amount of bearish sentiment across social platforms. But you can, of course, also see the bullish arguments here. Feel free to do your research, not just with the AI summaries, but anywhere else. XCN is trending. It has had a pretty big price jump here, and social volume has begun to explode. Always beware of these kinds of patterns where you see the price pump and then right afterwards, social volume gets huge. That's an indication that there's clear FOMO going on, which often leads to an upcoming top. It might be temporary, but you wanna monitor this. And if you own XCN, be ready for some volatility now that the mainstream crowd has jumped in and is trying to take advantage of this pump that's going on. Rune, Anime, Ethereum, interestingly, and SafeMoon round out the top 10 there. And feel free to check in on this dashboard anytime. I think it's one of the best resources among Santiment's many great tools. Now, key narratives. I saw a message from Alex indicating we have some updates on how this platform works. The My Narratives section. So how can we find the chart that he showed me? There were some significant updates to how this table is supposed to work. Balrush, can you do me a favor? Yeah. Not this. No, not this. Say it again. Got it. Yeah, there's a button called My Narratives that Alex DM'd me that shows each of these on their own axis, and it's much easier to tell which ones are gaining or losing traction. My Narratives page, interesting. Well, that's one way to get there, but it doesn't look like it's showing the same view that Alex showed me. I'll have to clarify with him so we can show it in its full form next week. But yeah, essentially this tab or infographic here will begin to show on its own axis so you can better understand which are gaining or losing steam, which subjects are getting or losing steam on any given week. And it's a much needed improvement to this. Just looking at his chart really quick, I do see that topics like Ethereum have gained a lot of steam, gained a lot of steam, which makes sense considering it's in our top 10 trending tokens right now. Airdrops has been seeing some recent jumps. Bear market is okay. So this is an interesting one. If we go to social trends again, and we're going to type in bull and market. And then we'll also do bear and market. So this is going to scrape all of the social platforms for um, frequency of whether traders believe we're in a bull market or a bear market. We'll switch this to just the daily view. Yeah, so it's interesting. There is a recent trend of more and more discussions of bear market. You can see that there's kind of an even amount over the past few full days between bull market mentions and bear market mentions. This is a good sign. I mean, you want to see the retail crowd being very skeptical of future rises, and it seems as though the negative mentions about the market are keeping pace with the positive mentions, which is a good sign because you can see historically they always tend to lean pretty positive with a few exceptions. Um, so I like the look of this a lot. This is a very encouraging sign, indicating that the retail crowd is likely taking a lot of profit here based on the high mentions of bear market compared to bull market. I had a few others prepared as well. Take a look at the amount of mentions related to the Fed, inflation, uh, rates. Words like these are indicative of people being sensitive to the Fed interest rate cuts or rises that are happening at any given time. These have had a dramatic impact on prices over the past couple of years, really, going back to early 22, where we began to see Fed interest rate um, hikes that were negatively impacting prices. Obviously, with the latest news, we did see an interest rate cut, but it came with hawkish comments from Jerome Powell indicating that he might be slowing those cuts going into this year. So people are highly anticipating the next FOMC meeting to see whether we might see one or two more cuts before we start to kind of see a flat period where the Fed is doing nothing in either direction. I would also pay close attention to the mentions of high prices versus low prices. Our devs are working on getting more saved bookmarks for this page, which will be helpful. I don't want to type all of it out. Let me just see if I had a saved chart. I know I shared a few with the crowd earlier this week. Mm-mm. I could use that one. I don't want to waste. I don't want to waste time. It's okay. With our final stretch here, Baresh, do you see any comments, questions that I might be able to address on this stream? Sure. Let's take a look at the meme coin, FLOKI, which is currently sitting in the 79th market cap position uh, in crypto. It's definitely been one that has made a lot of news, especially in the later part of 2024. You can see this big run up between November 4th all the way up to this high on the 20th, where FLOKI jumped about 115%. And it has been dropping pretty significantly since, down about 44% since that moment. So a 2 month slide has definitely led to decreased transaction volume. We're currently on the current day only getting about $4 million in transaction volume. That's a far cry from the $209 million in transaction volume at the high point on November 22nd, which I guarantee was a moment where a lot of whales and sharks took a lot of profits. Looking at the daily active addresses in circulation, you can see a pretty significant decline here as well, with peaks happening at the exact same time as we saw the token circulation spikes. Whale transactions, yeah, not too many anymore. Pretty much 0 or 1 on any given day, even though we did have 13 on November 21st. Like I said, this was a time when whales were taking profits, and we aren't really seeing signs that whales are ready to accumulate back in just yet. It doesn't mean that the price can't bounce, but it doesn't look like it's going to be triggered by a sudden level of shark and whale accumulation. You can see the percentage increase held by almost every single tier, with the exception of this looks like one. Nope, not that one. Yeah, 1 million to 10 million coin holders have been declining pretty rapidly. So the price is at 0.000142. So yeah, this isn't even a very large tier. This is like people owning a few $1,000s in FLOKI that seem to be declining while everything else is going up in the number of addresses. If we just take a look at, let's say, 100 million or more wallets, yeah, they're actually moving up. What about 1 billion by itself? Yeah, that's a pretty decent sign that um, the sharks and whales are accumulating right now rather than dumping. We might be able to see, let's see the dollar equivalent here. So if I do a billion times the current price of FLOKI, yeah, it's about $142,000 or more. So that's certainly a decent amount that can very much sway the markets. There we are. Need to find the tab again. So this line moving up, the red one in particular, if I can just isolate that. Or excuse me, yellow one. So this is the $1 billion or billion coin or more tier, with everyone holding $142,000 or more in FLOKI. It's actually moving very aggressively up still, and has been since the price started to dump on November 20th or so. So if I put the price on there, yeah, look at how they've continued to accumulate even as the price has declined, even going all the way back to mid-November here. So I actually like the look of this at all. It means that uh, it means that the key stakeholders for this asset are continuing to stockpile, pun intended, with the news going on right now. A lot of FLOKI with anticipation that it will break out again soon. Now, even though we're not seeing a lot of whale transactions, I like that they're just steadily accumulating more and more coins right now. Uh, On-chain profit to loss looks pretty even at the moment. Mean dollar invested age is also looking pretty good. So ever since mid-August, we've seen this line staying down, plenty of dormant movement happening on a regular basis. So the coins are not just stagnantly sitting in the wallets, as we could see from this line. It's continuing to move pretty aggressively in the right direction. Age consumed has had its moments, but yeah, I think this is a very good sign that FLOKI is having something else planned for it. I don't know if it's going to be an immediate jump in price, but this combined with the 1 billion coin plus wallets accumulating are two very good signs for the meme coins upcoming prospects for another breakout. Checking to see. Yeah, I mean, social volume, there's just not a lot of discussion related to the meme coin right now. It's just declining most of the time. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means it's not on the crowd's radar at the moment, and likely will stay off the crowd's radar until it has another decoupling of some type that kind of grabs traders' attention. Look for any meme coin, FLOKI included, to be very sensitive to retail attention. So when you start to see a spike like this right before the huge local top here in mid-November, as a sign that you can take profits safely, knowing that the retail crowd is trying to buy the top here and the whales and sharks are gladly giving them their coins so that they can take profit themselves. So most spikes in meme coins are going to be related to FOMO. They're just not talked about much when they're declining. Yeah, because of the level of negative price movement, we're seeing a lot of negative discussion. Makes a lot of sense with declining social volume. So look for it to stay low. This will come up a little by the end of the day to match more of these kinds of bars, but most signs here are pretty good for FLOKI. I appreciate the user who asked about this so we could take a look at it. I haven't checked out FLOKI in a few months. Total amount of holders has also been rising, but it's kind of slowed down over the past week or so. Not quite as aggressively. It did recently surpass 10,000 just last week. And I presume that's the first time we've ever seen FLOKI with, oh yeah, by far. So first time ever FLOKI has at least 10,000 non-empty wallets. And it's good to see that the growth has started to slow, indicating that retail traders are not particularly that interested right now. While the whales, as we saw up here, are very interested in continuing to accumulate with 1 billion or more coin holders now holding almost 110 billion total coins. In terms of the total amount of supply, by the way, that's not right. Okay, I'll report this bug as well. They are not holding 23,735% of the asset. This does not, it's not supposed to ever go above 100%. So wish I could give you the data on that as well. One final thought before we close here. Correlation with the S&P right now. Bitcoin is essentially moving in tandem with equities at the moment. That's nothing new. We've seen that for the most part for the past 3 years, with some exceptions, especially around the FTX collapse in late 2022. But barring anything new, we're going to continue to see crypto fluctuate quite closely with the S&P 500, with breakouts in Bitcoin, kind of like what we saw over the last couple of weeks, leading to a lot of independent altcoin surges, depending on which projects have the best long-term viability. You can check out our dev activity tab there to look at the overall ecosystems, or you can sort by individual development activity per asset, which does a great job of highlighting the notable GitHub activity only without any noise like Slack updates getting in the way. And you can see right now in the top 10, Internet Computers at number 1, Cardano back at number 2. They've kind of been outside the top 5 for much of the past half year or so. So happy for Cardano holders to see themselves back in the number 2 slot. Hedera at number 3. Starknet has dropped down just a bit. They were at number 2 when we updated last month. Chainlink still in the top 5. Optimism, Polkadot, and Kusama are part of the same GitHub repository. And then Ethereum, Deepbook, and Sui just outside the top 10, looking in, rounding out this top development activity table here. So I would definitely continue to pay attention to which projects are getting the most activity. There's a very high correlation with very high market caps, high as in low, low being good, for projects seeing lots of development on a daily basis. So this is a great long-term leading indicator for you to help justify that you have the right coins sitting in your portfolio. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching today. Overall, the short term, in my opinion, looks a bit rocky due to high average trading returns, currently surging altcoins that aren't really being matched by surging Bitcoin. It kind of looks like it's the end of a cycle where Bitcoin did a lot of pumping over the past week, and now altcoins are getting the celebration mode from the Bitcoin profits. So expect that there could be some tumultuous movement over the over this final stretch of January, and then we'll revisit things next week on this stream. And keep in mind, we're constantly updating throughout the week some of the biggest signals in crypto, so you can uh, precisely be on top of when there might be a turning point. We'll keep you notified if we see anything. But thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so yet. It really helps us out with the algorithm. And we will talk to you next week. Take care, guys.